So our story starts in 2013 when both of us joined LUMS. While I like to read, Asad was a writer. He had previously written 2 books in Germany and he was working on his 3rd one. So when he was nearly done writing, I asked him one day, hey, how are you getting your book published? And he said, I don't know. So we set out to find ways to get his work published. We went to literary festivals all over Pakistan. We went to Karachi Literary Festival, in Lahore, and Islamabad. We met with publishers, agents, and literary artists. And all of them told us one thing.
बेटा पाकिस्तान में पब्लिशिंग का कोई सीन नहीं है, आप इंडिया क्यों नहीं जाते? We don't have the infrastructure that's present in Germany. After running after Mohsad Hamid, Bilal Tanveer and other prominent authors, we got the same answer over and over again. Beta India jao, beta Malaysia chale jao, beta Singapore chale jao. So here we were. I was a Pakistani, writing about Pakistan, writing for Pakistan, with revenue based in Pakistan. But my book was going to be published in India. This broke my heart. It was painful to see other countries benefiting off of our amazing talent. You can see the same trend happening in other industries like film and music. Countries like India embrace our talent open-heartedly. We could definitely use a Coke studio for literature. We laid the foundation for a social enterprise called the Blur Foundation. It was called the Blur Foundation because the book I was writing was called Blur at that time, and we felt that it was quite apt that the foundation that sort of fixes this problem should be named after the book, which could never be published because of the problem itself. So we knew that there was a problem with the way things were, but people weren't so interested. Who reads a book आजकल? यार चुप करके Penguin India try कर ले. यार खाना खाने दे क्या blur blur किया हुआ है.
So we ran information sessions in which attendance never went over 2 digits, and the people who did attend were usually our friends, which was kind of sad. So the marriage between our business-oriented degrees and this social enterprise was creating a lot of problems, and we wanted to solve that.
So at one point we were considering building a health app based in Lahore. That's how far our ideas were, and we were just stuck in this entrepreneurial rut where we were thinking, yaar, ye bhi kar sakte hain, we could do this, we could do that, but we weren't sure of actually what we wanted to do. So one day, Kiran and I sat down for a cup of, you guessed it, chai. And we were thinking of whether to go ahead with this, whether to change things, what our recipe needed tweaking in. We had exams at that time, so we were worried of whether we should even bother continuing with this. We talked. I had 3 cups of chai, and then we decided that we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to redefine the scope of our entire enterprise and start from scratch. And on that day, ChaiChalk was born. We used the lessons from our failure at the Blur Foundation to power ChaiChalk. From day one, our vision was to make sure that every writer in this country could showcase their work, could showcase their stories on a unified platform, that everyone and anyone could publish a book if they wanted, and anyone and everyone could tell a story if they wanted to.
So for quite a long while, we just sat silently, okay, what are we going to do? And
so when we're abroad, we generally, as Pakistanis, why does this matter? I've lived abroad. I've lived in a series of different countries. My dad works in the foreign service, so I've been always a victim of random profiling at different airports. And when we're abroad, we've gotten accustomed to this. We've gotten accustomed to getting peculiar looks. Some of us have become apologists. Some of us have become rebels, fighting a virtual war on different sorts of social media to prove and to tell people that Pakistan is a country which is not full of extremists, and it's not a terror sponsor with, it's not a set of homelands essentially. We had forgotten the narrative of this country. When Brandon Stanton came to Pakistan, I, along with all my friends in LUMS, went crazy on Facebook. We took to Twitter, we took to every social media platform we had to say, thank you, Brandon, thank you so much, Brandon. But it was disappointing. A third person from a foreign country came here armed with nothing but a camera, and he drove more social impact than I've been able to do in the past 22 years. Our usual excuses are that Pakistan's a poor country, yaar. We don't have resources. We are very, very mismanaged. We don't have the correct personnel for these things. Institutes like PIEAS, institutes like LUMS, events such as these all stand as testaments to the invalidity of that statement. Those excuses cannot have any merit if we are doing things like this. We have the resources to drive such social impact.
ChaiChalk does not want to take the apologist road. ChaiChalk does not want to be on the forefront of a virtual war where we try to tell the rest of the world that, you know, this is not the set of homeland. We want to strike the perfect balance by showing the rest of the world rather than just telling them, oh, we can do this. But how do we show them rather than just telling them?
We show them by telling our story. Right now, we only have a handful of writers in this country which show the real Pakistan. Why is that? Well, because it's very difficult for writers to actually approach these big publishers, and it's easy for Mohsen Hamid to come up to me, an aspiring writer, and tell me, "Ke beta, Pakistan mein na publish karo, bahar chale jao." Not everybody has the resources to go to India and to talk to these publishers, and not everybody has these contacts. This makes us beg a question. This leads us to a very big question. We all know about Oxford University Press, yes? Where are we sitting right now? Why not have a PIEAS University Press? I'm from LUMS. Why not have a LUMS University Press? Why not have an IB University Press? And why not attach a university press to every single institution in this country? Why do we let Oxford University Press rule a monopoly in this country? We need a publishing house which publishes English, and it publishes Urdu, and it publishes Pashto, Sindhi, Balochi, and every single dialect that exists in this country. We need a publishing house which publishes every language and doesn't force our literature into the Western canon. We did our homework and realized that a publishing firm is required. So we'll be talking about 3 initiatives that we would like to set up. So it's sort of like stairs, so 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, publishing house. So 3 initiatives. I'll be talking about the first initiative, and that's the web experience. What is the web experience? The web experience is essentially us building a home for ChaiChalk. Now, I'm not very good at coding. I really don't know much about computers. I'm quite self-taught. And so I kind of break things and then try to fix them together again. So when we started with the web version, it was just Kiran and I, and we sat down and we had 2 laptops and we started working on the website. We spent day and night, and then I'd break something, and then I'd call my computer science major friends, please aake theek kar do, and then they'd fix it and I'd break it again. And we built everything bit by bit. The website went live in October of 2015 with a few pieces of fiction, and which were contributed by our friends, to be honest. I wrote a few of them. There were 15 pieces. To compromise for the small initial offering, as far as pieces are concerned, we launched a campaign. The campaign was called ProfileForPeace, and it was just spreading a universal message of peace and coexistence, and it was a response to similar sentiments from the Indian side. We went to sleep, tired beyond recognition, and we had been checking our Facebook metrics that, we should have at least 100 likes by morning. That was the goal. I'm a deep sleeper, but when I woke up, I had north of 100 missed calls from Kiran. CNN had already called for an interview. We were already featured on a dozen media platforms, and our Facebook post reach had just crossed 1 million. So on day 1, we realized the power that social media played in framing social context and in pushing the social narrative forward. We also realized that we could use our influence to actually create social impact and do what I was disappointed that we couldn't do when Brandon Stanton did. So while we were doing this, we were pumping social critiques, elaborate essays on feminism like this one, fiction pieces, poetry, prose, blogs, rants, and stories from Pakistan from everywhere. What this essentially did was essentially just balloon our traffic. Every day we had to add another server. Every day we had to add another IT person to handle all the traffic. And eventually we had to think about a radical redesign. And there was a problem with all of our content because it was all in English. Given the state of our literacy rates in this country, you'd think that Urdu would attract a larger number of people. The problem we had with Urdu was that if you go to Jung, how many of you visit Jung regularly? A few people. The Urdu on Jung we thought was just, it just didn't look good. It was a weird hybrid of a Farsi and Arabic script, And after doing some research, we found out that Urdu doesn't exist on the internet. So we built Urdu for the internet. We deployed our own code and made sure it did justice to the beautiful language that it is, and made sure that we were happy with it before we went live with our content. And this is the redesigned website with our Urdu logo and the Urdu script, which is actually dynamic. So every time Google crawls our website, a little bit of more Urdu exists on the internet. With hundreds of pieces, hundreds of thousands of readers, and the web version autonomously operating, we took everything we learned and moved to the next project. This initiative had been marked complete, and we were one step closer to our publishing house.
So the next project was a bold one. We wanted to connect real people to tangible literature in a more tangible sense. So it was to have commercial events. We've had a couple of these events in Lahore DHA, and I'm going to just talk about one which was really interesting. So we had this Poetry Slam open mic event. Poetry Slam is a competition in which you really harness the power of the spoken word. So we were expecting like 120 to 130 people, hence our venue had like just that much capacity. But when we showed up, there were over 200 people over there, and people from all walks of life. So we had girls as young as 11 years old with pieces of poetry written, and uncles and aunties as old as 70 years old. And they were all excited, and they all wanted to perform over there. And that showed us that it's not that people aren't interested, it's just that there aren't enough events or there aren't enough engagements happening for them. So this is how we wanted to incorporate literature in a more tangible sense. Other than that, we also have workshops. So we go to different schools, say Beacon House, Newlands, etc., etc. And we have fiction writing workshops, academic writing workshops, workshops involving us teaching them. So it's student-student relationship. But then we realized that there are a lot of people who pay other students for, say, an academic essay. So 1,000 or 2,000 might not mean a lot to us if we're getting paid for it. But what if you give that money to an underprivileged children? That might actually be their rosy roti. So why not do that? So we tweaked our model a little. Now what we do is we call these underprivileged children to our university. We give them these workshops. We tell them how to deal with academic writing, how to deal with content. And then they connect with the other students. So then it's them and them. So like both students, and then who's getting paid? Not us, but those underprivileged children. So they don't have to compromise on their studies. They get to learn a lot, and they're earning.
Once this project had been tried and tested, we moved on to the third one, and this is something that we're currently working on, and we call it Digital Revolution. Remember when I said that people asked me at the beginning that nobody's reading books? They were kind of right. Well, sort of. People just were reading books, but just less. Print media will never die, it'll decrease, but regardless of how cool my smartphone gets and how cool the new iPad is, print media will never die. But there is something there. People do engage with their smartphones more often than they ever will with books in a single day. And the literature they have is Facebook, Twitter, their email, their texts. That's the literature we deal with on occasion. We wanted to put literature on those devices. Now, how do we use these devices and put our content on there? Well, we make a native version of our website, right? No, because these devices are really smart. Why not use them fully? So essentially what Digital Revolution is the rebottling of old wine in new bottles. So we wanted to build something which was versatile, which was accessible to everybody, and which is open to everybody. And well, so our website runs natively across a series of different devices. We wanted to make something new, and we call it Likhari. So Likhari is a marketplace where anybody can create audiobooks, anybody can create, using our tools, very easily create audiobooks, ebooks, short stories, and other forms of literary pieces that then they can sell for 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 15 rupees, and obviously delivery charges, card ke. Even then, people will be making money out of this, and what this does is essentially take that underprivileged student model and apply it to 190 million people. Anybody who has a smartphone or has an internet connection can actually access this. Now, if the same tools were given to the people who print Punjab board textbooks, they can also create those ebooks and save thousands of rupees by just making e-versions of the textbooks that you have to buy anyways. The point is that we had an idea back in freshman year, back in 2013, that there's a gap in the market. I had no formal training of how to write a book. I wrote a book, it was a mess. I did it again, it was slightly better. And the third time I found a larger problem to tackle. We are not even graduates. We have no idea how to start up a company. We have no idea how to do HR. We have no idea how to do management. But that's never impeded us really. I mean, it's trial and error. Whenever we have a problem that we encounter, we just go back and try to learn from that problem. And ChaiChalk is very much about, and everything that we're trying to do is very much about challenging tomorrow. So if you have an idea, Lahore is currently the hub for startups. Everybody can now just take their idea and actually implement it and contextualize it and deploy it. Doesn't take a lot of effort. The only problem is determination.